Good morning, everybody. Clinton here, Oval Window Racing. Thank you for joining me in the garage today. And as you can see, we're working on Grease Pit. But I'm wondering if we can still call him Grease Pit. I mean, let's take a look. It's no longer greasy. It's got a fresh coat of paint. It's looking good. Now, I was talking with the owner, and so I asked him, should we still call this thing Grease Pit? You know, it's not greasy anymore. Then I reminded him that we painted it Ford blue. Sorry, Ford joke, Chevy guy. But and his response was, we did paint it blow up blue. So we'll see. I think we'll continue calling him Grease Pit from here out. But yeah, it's starting to look good. Can't complain about the color. Actually, it looks really good blue. I was surprised. And he handed me a can of blue paint. I was like, ooh, you really want to paint it blue? Usually he likes to paint his stuff either lime green or purple, surprisingly. But no, he wanted this one blue, and that's what we're rolling with. All right, yeah, now we're rolling along, moving along here. As you can see today, we've got the head studs on. They're just on for trial fitting purposes right now. What I will do in the near future, when I'm ready to seal it all up, is I'll actually Loctite them in place. But today's goal is to put the cylinders, pistons, and the heads on, and see how this thing fits together as a long block, which will lead me into the next process of making sure that the valve geometry is correct, and actually trying to figure out what we're going to get for lift and what ratio rockers those are. I got an idea. I took notes that the cam lobe is about 430 thousandths lift. So when I do the math with the after trial fitting the rocker arms, I should get a good idea if those are 125s, 14s, or 15s. We're hoping they're going to be a 125 because that'll keep us under 600 thousandths lift. But let's take a look at the pistons and cylinders. Hey, here's what we got here for pistons and cylinders. They are gently used, and you can see I like to actually put these together before they're on the engine. A lot of the books will show you to put the pistons on the rods and then use a sleeve retainer so you can put the cylinders over top of the rings. I like to do it this way. It's just because this is the I don't really know what they call this thing. the rings sleeve, so you can press the pistons into the cylinders without damaging the rings. It's the way I've always done it, and it seems to work. But yeah, let's get busy putting them on the engine. All right, first prep. A little bit of assembly lube. Where the wrist pins are going to go. Just a little bit, doesn't take much. Yeah, what I didn't point out was here's what we wound up with our shims. Usually put these on first. It's a little tricky when I go to do the main sealing of these, just because I got to put silicone and stuff on. So you got to make sure that these are on here, right? Because they only go on. Well, I guess they'd probably go on two ways. If you try to go the other way, they don't line up. I grabbed cylinder 1 here, and you can tell it's cylinder 1 for a couple of things. I usually like to put a little nick here before I paint and clean stuff up. I got 1 nick for piston 1, and then piston 3, of course, has got 3, and then 2 and 4, got 2 and 4. I got these laid out like they'd go on the engine, and then just make sure you got the right ones. Piston number 1, it's got a 1 stamped in it. I usually stamp the pistons too, but these were stamped before I had them, so someone does the same thing as I do. Now when I trial fit this, I will not use the wrist pin bushings or clips because it's not going to be ran. All I'm doing is just going to roll it over slowly a few times. Just make sure that the wrist pin is all the way in so it's not going to scrape the cylinder. And we'll just roll her down. And yep, I got the big wheel attached again. We'll bring rod number 2 up. Let's show you here. And these will go on this way. They got these little cutouts, but they will not go on this way. I mean, sure, if you wanted to force them down there, you could, but why would you want to do that? Gently put her down. Make sure wrist pin ain't sticking out, so we're golden. Carefully push her down. There we go. Roll it down a little bit. Now it's time for the head. All right, make sure the head's clean. Sealing surfaces are clean. I chose not to use copper gaskets on this build. Just the way it worked out. And now we need some mounting hardware. The reason I'm doing this is to make sure the head studs are going to be long enough. And wow, we may need to get longer head studs. There's one thing I can do is bring them out of the case a little bit. But you may want to get a little bit longer one. That's going to be a phone call. But I can still mount everything here right now and see how it looks and get at least the push rod geometry. Nice thing about getting new hardware is it will come with new washers and nuts. And at this time, I'm not going to bother putting push rod tubes in. Don't need them because I'm not running the engine. But they will be there for final assembly. All right, now to find a wrench and socket. Getting ready to tighten everything down. I've had this thing for years. It's just a photocopy enlarged out of one of my books. Get a paper here. But it gives you the torque patterns. Okay, this is for your first torque and then your second torque. You're going to torque the heads twice on here. I usually do the first pattern twice because I just lightly, gently work the nuts down. Then I'll torque them down and then go down to the second torque. But it says here for 16-cylinder head nuts, intentionally tighten to 7 foot-pounds in the order, and then to the recommended torque settings number 2. And I think with 8mm head studs, the recommended torque setting is about 18 foot-pounds. With chromoly head studs, I sometimes will go a little bit past that, especially if you got case savers in the case. That way, if you don't have the case savers, you may actually start pulling the head studs out. But yeah, this is something I just kind of kept in the garage and just reminds me which way to go. We'll just lightly tighten these down to the recommended pattern, torque pattern. Which the first one is just going back and forth on the center two. And jumping to the outer two. Now to grab the torque wrench, which this only goes down to 10 foot-pounds, so that's what I got set at. It always surprises me with the heads here. You know, all the combustion on here, and you don't tighten them down very far. And I'm going against the pattern already. All right, then we'll move the next one up to 18 foot-pounds. So there's 20, we'll back it off 2 for 18. And then I'll double check. I actually had a cylinder head one time where the fins were hitting on the cylinders themselves, and it just didn't seem like it wanted to tighten down. I kept doing this torque pattern about 3 times before I went and kind of did a leak, my good old thumb leak down pressure test. If you want to see that poor man's compression test, just search through my videos. I'll link it down below in case you haven't seen it. Just want to make sure, because I want to make sure we got compression for everything. First we'll do a gently, slowly rotate around, make sure nothing hits. That's nice. This one still leaks. Watch it come up. Let your piston go back down. Get some air in here. Oh no, that's good. I just didn't do it right the first time. Right, let's get the other side on. All right, here we got, folks. Heads are on. Looks really good. These are Mofoco 041 heads. He did have a mishap back in the day. These things were prone to drop in valves, and he does have one chamber that is a little banged up. I mean, he is aware of it. They are his heads. He gave them to me. I think it'll be all right. We'll find out. But yeah, grease pit turned cleaned up really nice. Yes, grease pit's looking really nice. Next step's going to be to get valve geometry, but I'm going to talk to my friend about these head studs. I'm thinking if I just maybe back them out about 1/8 of an inch, we're going to be fine. There's enough thread into the case where we're not going to have a problem. I think they go in a good 3/4 of an inch. So if we just back them out 1/8 of an inch, you know, we still got 5/8 of an inch of the push rods. We still got a 5/8 of an inch of the head studs in there. But yes, we'll get to that next step soon. But I'd like to thank you guys for joining me again. Be sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment. It's always great to hear from you folks. Until next time, stay safe, keep the flat side down and the shiny side up.